more business boosting content, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and like our posts.
All right, a very big welcome to another exciting edition of Webinar Wednesday. I'm truly excited about this morning's one. It's got a great comparison. But first of all, a very big welcome to all our guests from all over the country. And remember, if you've got any comments as we move forward, please pop them into the chat. If you've got any questions for our guest speaker, we'll try and touch on those. But what's really important, if we don't get to your questions, we will get back to you after this webinar. But another key important note is that everyone will receive a replay of this webinar soon after the live session. And so please tell us where you come from. What are your expectations? How's business going this year? What do you expect for the remainder of the year? That brings us almost to half the year gone already. So a great morning. And also another key important point, if something goes wrong with technology, and fortunately we haven't had problems yet, but as we know with technology, anything goes, we will be back. So please don't leave us. And importantly, enjoy. It's an inspirational session, and I'm truly excited. So before we start, and of course I can't start without our guest, and I'd really like to welcome Graeme Miller, the Managing Director of SevenC, to join me on stage, who is our guest speaker for the morning. And not only our guest speaker, SevenC is a national partner of NSBC, committed to the growth and sustainability of the SME sector. And it's because of people like Graeme and companies like SevenC, we can do what we do, help SMEs stay in business, build so they can employ others. But Graeme, a very big welcome and thank you for your time this morning. I'm truly excited.
Thanks, Mike. I'm very excited as well. Thanks so much for the introduction. So maybe to tell you a little bit about myself. So my name's Graeme Miller. I'm the MD of SevenC Managed IT Services. Been around for about 27 years now in the IT space as a startup. We've kind of evolved in terms of our technologies that we use, but we kind of evolved with the trends, and now we about 110 staff, and we operate across South Africa and Southern Africa as well. To speak to myself, as the webinar suggests, endurance sport is one of my interests, loves outside of work. Besides my two small kids as well, which keep me busy and keep me away from doing many of these races these days. But it's still something that I watch and enjoy avidly. Those that were fortunate enough to watch the Comrades on the weekend, I know they did have a couple of hiccups with their feed, but it was an amazing day again. It's always an amazing thing to watch, starting at 5:30 in the morning, all the way up to 6 o'clock when the cutoffs start happening. It's very exciting, and the 100th is next year. So I'm very, very tempted. I've already started convincing my wife that I need to start training again for this. I haven't. My last Comrades was in 2019, so I've had a few years off, but I feel like the 100th is a good time to jump back in again. Thanks, Mike.
Well, Graeme, maybe I'll join you. I've got some time to.
No, you must.
I've always been passionate about Comrades. I've watched it many years ago, even when Wally Hayward. Well, I didn't watch much of him, but certainly Bruce Fordyce and the rest. But inspiring to watch. And that brings us to the topic of the morning: endurance. What ultra-distance sport taught Graeme about entrepreneurship? So what we're going to do in the next few minutes, we're going to talk to Graeme about, who is of course the Managing Director of SevenC and ultra-distance athlete, on the parallels between endurance sport and building a sustainable business. Practical lessons on resilience, discipline, consistency, overcoming setbacks, and scaling for long-term success in South Africa's challenging business environment. But Graeme, I've got a couple of questions I would like to put forward, and just to our audience, these discussions, I know I can recognize many of you, are interactive, they're lighthearted, they're inspirational, but importantly, they pass on real lifetime thoughts that can help us all have that extra edge in growing a bigger and more successful business. So I've got a couple of points I'm going to refer you to, if you don't mind me looking down now and again, because I give these notes just before the webinar so that they're spontaneous, and of course that's the intention this morning. But Graeme, what are the parts of being in business in a startup phase that you think people romanticize today that are actually incredibly hard when you've been living through them?
I think building resilience, building the basics, getting the foundations right when you're building a business is so key. It's very easy to romanticize a startup and you just shoot from 0 to 1,000 in a couple of years. But really, like what I found at SevenC in particular was what built us to the business we are now is really getting those foundational steps right, hiring the right people, understanding the product stack, going to market, getting the right clients, getting your service levels at the right level. In terms of becoming that trusted advisor to our clients has been so key, and kind of building on from there. Referrals in particular, when we get those clients that are delighted by our service, those are our best leads. So that's what I found in particular from a resilience perspective. That really helps us. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely, Graeme. We always say that, retaining customers and customers acquired through referrals is highly cost effective as opposed to anything else. So thank you for bringing that. Now, Graeme, in ultra distance sport, there's a point where your mind tells you to stop before your body actually needs to. Have you seen the same thing happen in business?
I think with any business, you're going to go through ups and downs. So there's going to be potholes along the way. If I use comrades as an analogy, you're going to lose toenails in comrades. No, without doubt, it's going to happen. Multiple toenails, at least in my experience. And the same thing applies with business. You might lose that key client. You might have cash flow issues. You might lose that key key staff member, or at least you felt that this was this key staff member that you can't run the business without them. But to go back to the resilience, it's how you cope and how you manage to bounce back from that adversity that really makes a big difference. And kind of just remembering, the journey that you're on, and that you're not done in this journey, because you'll have this vision of what you want this business to be, and you got to keep that in your mind. The same with comrades. You can visualize you running up to Pietermaritzburg, you visualize the finish, and you're not done. You just keep reminding yourself, and you build that tenacity from that mantra that you keep running through your mind. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Graeme. Coming back to the comments, people always used to say to me, the up run, it's an up run, but the down run must be quite easy because it's a long way down. But it's not that case, is it, Graeme?
No, I can vouch for that. I by far prefer the up run.
Absolutely.
You'll see, in particular, the down run. All the runners for the next few days, they'll be hobbling, pulling themselves upstairs because it wrecks your legs. Because even though it's a down run, you don't realize it's 50 Ks of up and down, and then it's 30 Ks of mostly down, and your legs by that point are completely shot. So, no, I much prefer the up run.
They should change that, not to the down run, but to the extremely hard run. Probably it fits in well. But Graeme, the other important one, and I like this. What matters more in business, innovation or consistency?
So in my industry, innovation is key. You cannot, in the tech space, ignore the emerging technologies. So you have to be continually innovating. However, there is something to be said about consistency at the same time. So I feel it's actually a balance between the two, at least in my industry. Consistencies in terms of your service level in particular, because if you can't provide that high level of service, you are going to churn clients, for example. But at the same time, in the IT space, emerging technologies, you have to be not necessarily a first mover, but you have to be close to being a first mover to make sure that you keep your market share. Because if you're not, these things change so quickly. The advent of Microsoft 365 is a good example, when clients were running on Exchange servers, which I'll try not to be too technical, but when that technology came about, if you weren't pivoting towards that, you would have been left behind as an MSP like ourselves. So we've pivoted many times over the course of the business's lifetime. We actually started off as a Linux company, which is an open source Linux provider, which again, I won't be too technical, but we built our own bespoke solution, which was unique to the marketplace. And that's what really differentiated us at the time. But because the technology has changed, we also had to change with it. So the company's evolved over the course of the last 28 years, based on those technologies. But we've always tried to be consistent in terms of our service levels and being that trusted advisor to our clients.
Well, interesting you say that, Graeme. You know, years ago I was in a conference in Boca Raton, Florida, and that message came out. You know, in technology, it's innovation, and in sales, it's consistency. But that combination is extremely powerful. So thank you for that insight. Now, Graeme, people talk about scaling as if it's a single breakthrough moment. In reality, when did growth actually happen for 7C?
So it's interesting. We have always consistently been fortunate in that we've managed to grow the business pretty consistently over the last, in particular in the last 15 years. And I can't necessarily attribute it to any one factor, but there have been a number of factors, clients that have upsized dramatically, and we've been able to cater for those, for that upsizing. Also, when technologies have changed, I mentioned earlier about during COVID, we had already become first adopters with remote working, for example. So we were able to pivot very quickly for our clients and ourselves to be able to work remotely. And that also gave us opportunities in the market. And that was another jump on our side. Yeah, there's been a few. I wouldn't say there's one particular point, but there's been a few milestones where the company's grown more than the average. But it definitely started with just kind of building up very methodically, very consistently, very diligently in the first few years. And I guess that kind of, if you were to apply that to endurance training or endurance events, the consistency of training. So week in, week out, you're hitting the same sort of mileage. Ideally, you're not getting injured, so you're not doing too much. And that maybe to overreach in business is another aspect. If you try to be too aggressive or too, if you overextend yourself as a business, then that can also, you can get injured. You can have, to talk to a business that can be cash flow issues, for example. But when it comes to training for endurance events, you get overuse injuries. Then you're out of running for a few weeks. Then you try to catch up, and then you get more injuries. So you sort of learn these lessons in building up for these sorts of events, and you can apply them back into business as well. Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Graeme, I often, talk to people about similar to you who run these endurance events, long distance, and that discipline and that consistency to get up in those super early, cold and rainy mornings. Doesn't belong to everybody. It takes a special person to do that, because it's not. Yeah. Do I go out now, or do I stay in bed? And that's what keeps it going, isn't it? And that takes a special person to be able to be consistent and disciplined to do that. Now, Graeme, how has endurance sport changed the way you lead people during difficult business periods?
I think. And maybe in endurance sport, for one thing, there's quite a long runway in terms of the training that you have to do. So there's a bit of patience that I would say in terms of leadership. I'm more patient, I believe, with like new leaders in particular. You want to give them time to kind of learn the ropes, to understand the business, to understand your leadership style. I'm fairly hands-off for the most part. And kind of just focus on deliverables. But I would say from a training, I'm just thinking here from a leadership perspective. Yeah, I think it's also just being disciplined as well around leading your staff, but then also how they apply their leadership style to their subordinates. Being consistent, being fair to all staff as well is very important to me. Because you have to set the tone from the top. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. So my next question is an important one. I know that many thousands of business owners want to hear it, and many thousands of business owners face this horrific dilemma Was there a period when you genuinely weren't sure 7C would make it?
I would say there have been times of uncertainty, definitely, and I would say a lot of those have been geopolitical, like COVID. The news can be quite negative a lot of the time. So if you follow the news closely, it can be a little bit pessimistic depending on the news that you read. And I try to avoid that and kind of focus on where the positives are. But yes, there have been situations where maybe our largest client had to downsize by 80%, which happened last year. And that was obviously very challenging and quite scary. But at the same time, it was completely out of our control. It was, factors overseas in the States that caused that. But we had to acknowledge it. We had to make peace with the fact that this has happened. And we saw the opportunities, resources got freed up on our side, and there were opportunities to win new business, to redeploy staff into those roles. And we still managed to grow the business, even having lost that client having downsized significantly. So yeah, I think there's always opportunities there, even in adversity. And the same with comrades or marathon. You're going to have times where you want to give up, you want to quit, and just got to keep visualizing that end goal that you have in mind and what you want this business to be, or this, finishing this race. And yeah, it also helps to have crowd support as well, to have a team behind you that can motivate you and excite you and keep you motivated in those times as well. And that's the great thing about comrades, is the crowd support is second to none. You have people shouting your name, keep going. It carries you the whole way. And to have that support from family or from your business partners, obviously is a big plus. To keep that motivation in adversity. Thanks, Mike.
That's an interesting point, Graeme. Just to touch on that, not long ago, I was invited by the BBC in the UK to do a talk, and the big question to me was, they researched every single country in the world of a business, an entrepreneur, and their findings came to this: that the South African entrepreneur is the most resilient and positive on any other country globally. And they were curious about this, and the question was why. And the answer to that is, it is that way. The South African entrepreneur has that ability to stand up after every adversity and keep moving, and to eventually arrive at where they want to be. In South Africa, we know there are many more challenges than many other countries. Whether it's been load shedding in the past, whether it's been crime, or whether it's been flooding, or whether it's been interest rates, or whatever challenges out there. But the South African entrepreneur has that ability to keep moving. I always say the 3 Ps: passion, perseverance, and persistence. It belongs to the South African entrepreneur. I'm not saying for one moment that other entrepreneurs globally aren't the same, but we kind of stand up in an elite sector on that point. So I thank you for that insight. It's certainly interesting. Now, Graeme, how do you keep a business aligned and motivated as it grows from a small founder-led company into a larger organization?
That's something I grapple with now. We're sort of the business itself, I would say, is sort of in those awkward teenage years of its growth cycle, and that we're not a small owner-managed business anymore, but we also by no means a corporate, or we're sort of moving towards a mid-sized entity. So the business owners are taking more of a step back in terms of the running of the business, and leaving it up to like myself and the exco to carry the business forward. And it's really important to kind of look at your strategic vision for the next 2 years. We set our vision 2030 in terms of the goals that we want the business to be, and really including the entire management team in that process. So we went away, had a summit together, and really discussed what we want this business to be in 4 years. And that was really eye-opening in terms of how everyone perceives the business. And also what was very motivating for me is how enthusiastic my management team were in terms of where the business is headed and what they want the business to be. So that motivates everyone to see how enthusiastic everyone is, and having that strong, close-knit team that can take the business there. So that's, I would say, doing these sessions every few years to kind of keep the business aligned. Where you headed, what are you looking at? In particular, in our industry, with the technologies changing so quickly, we have to be continually looking at emerging technologies. I won't talk about AI, but yes, the AI is a big one. Where that fits into our clients. How can we use it as a business enabler? How can we help our clients use it as an enabler, but also the risks that it carries? And I won't go into those too much, but things like shadow AI, for example, which is where you don't have control over the chatbots that are used in your business, and also the leakage of information that people can upload without necessarily knowing what they're uploading. It can be a bit of a minefield. So we're helping our clients navigate that at the moment. Thanks.
You're great, thank you. And someone, I mean, we spoke offline earlier before we had this webinar, and someone said to me not that long ago, Mark, you must always remember in business, not like many people when the computer came out years back, they never embraced the computer and they got left behind forever. And they said, what we must do, it mustn't override you, but we've got to, I know this is not an AI discussion, but it will be in time. You've got to embrace AI and spend a little bit of time every day to keep ahead of the game, because it's here forever. And if we don't embrace it, we are going to get left behind. And I took that quite seriously. So I spent a little bit of time. I'm not the most technologically advanced person. I know you are, Graeme. But the thing is that for me, technology, show me how it works and I'll work with you forever. I mean, I love technology. This is the most amazing technology platform, isn't it? And embracing technology is critical. Embracing AI or whether it may be in business, all aspects of business are equally as important. But we've got to embrace what is important so that our business can grow. And it's critically important from that side. And Graeme, what does building a sustainable business Africa teach you that entrepreneurs elsewhere may never fully understand?
I've got to think about that one. Can we come back to that one, Mike? I'm not actually sure.
No. This is absolutely in endurance sport, Graeme.
Yeah.
Recovery is part of performance. Entrepreneurs often ignore that.
Yeah.
What have you learned about sustainability, energy, and longevity?
Yeah, I think it's very easy to, when you're a business owner or when you're an MD, to try to take on too much yourself, to try to be too involved in all facets of the business and getting too involved in the operational aspects of the business and not necessarily in the strategic aspects of the business. Obviously, if you're a smaller business, that's inevitable, but at the same time, it can be very easy to take on too much and to burn out. And then you're going to set the company back, because then you need to take time for yourself, time to recharge your batteries, as it were. The same applies to endurance sport as well. So you need to be able to recover. Nutrition is also obviously vitally important in endurance sport. I don't know what analogy I can make to business in that, but so you have to build resilience. You can't just expect to be going, doing 16-hour days back to back to back. You are going to burn out, and it's going to be at the detriment to the business. So you need to know where your limits are as well, and take a step back, have a holiday, reset, and come back stronger. Otherwise, you are going to become, you're going to burn out, and you're going to lose your enthusiasm and your, the fact that you want to take the business forward. It is going to start waning, I believe, if you don't take that time to reset. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely, Graeme. Often in one of my talks that I do, I write a book every year, Never Surrender. And one of the key elements is always, what do the world's most successful people do before 8 o'clock in the morning? And I love what you mentioned there, reset. They get up early, possibly 5 o'clock. They have a healthy breakfast, like you've alluded to, critically important. They exercise. If you look at the top 10 people in the world, the most successful, they do all these things. And then what do? They plan their attack for the day, short, medium, long term. And before the rest of the nation wakes up, that's what they do. And if you do that every morning, you're well ahead of the game, and you can move forward refreshingly after you've had reset. Because basically, like you say, we need to reset. And of course, we've just heard of Elon Musk becoming the first trillionaire. So it's mind-boggling stuff. And what I actually did, and I often do this, I've traveled the world meeting the world's most successful entrepreneurs. And I thought, let me just see what is Elon Musk's typical day. And lo and behold, exactly those key points. 8 hours sleep a night, healthy breakfast, exercise, and focus on what's the most important of the day. And like what Warren Buffett does, as we know, say no to almost everything. The problem with a lot of people, they say no. I mean, I find it very difficult to say no to people, to things, or to meetings. But we've got to learn to say no to almost everything and focus on what's the important stuff. What's going to build your revenue? Sorry to go on a bit there, Graeme, but I love touching on that because we've got a lot of entrepreneurs this morning, and what you're saying is truly exciting and it touches on that key point. And of course, never stop learning, and critically important. We spoke a lot about, Graeme, endurance. Now, what endurance really means to you personally and professionally?
I think endurance for me is, never accepting, never quitting when you feel like the chips are down, or you don't think you're going to make it. Really, just pushing through that uncertainty that you might have, because you are going to. I alluded to it earlier. You are going to have bumps in the road. You are going to have ups and downs in life, in business, in an endurance race, but you keep persisting, you keep going, and you will get there. You've got to, keeping that positive mindset, just reminding yourself, I'm not done, keep going. We're almost there, keep pushing. That's really key, to kind of have a mantra or have something that you can hold on to. Be it in business where you want to be, you kind of visualize yourself and visualize where you think this business is going to be in 5 years, and hold on to that. And when things get tough, just remind yourself of why you're there, why this business is, why is it in existence? Why are you here? What is your if you have a vision statement, like what is this vision? What is this business going to be? And you need to be enthusiastic about that, and continually remind yourself of that when the chips are down, to push through that, because it will get better. Yeah.
I love that, Graeme. I just a bit of insight. I talk to about 100,000 people a year, and on many forums, people say to you, Mike, how do I guarantee success? And it became a simple. My book is always revolved around that. It became quite a simple answer. If you choose it to be, and you take it the right way. If you keep moving, you never ever give up. You'll always arrive at where you want to be, no matter what. And if you think about that, if you choose that route, you just will not get. If you go down, you stand up. The ability to bounce back positively after adversity is a choice. And then you keep moving, and you hit the wall again. You stand up positively, you keep moving. And if you think about that analogy, you will always be successful. You may go through many obstacles en route, but then again, a stock market is no perfect curve to the top. There's a lot of bounces on the way. And the point is, it's tough out there for an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my whole working life, and it's not easy out there, but it doesn't belong to everybody. And that's the beauty about being an entrepreneur. We also know when you start your business out there, the honeymoon is over quickly, and then it really begins. But the point is, I have the big message for everybody: just never, ever stop. Just keep moving. And that's profound. And you touched on that, Graeme, and I thank you for that.
I would also say, just on that, Mike, so, entrepreneurs, your first business, it may not be successful, but you have to keep pushing through. If you are a serial entrepreneur, you're going to have new ideas. You're going to have other businesses, other startups. A lot of these startups don't necessarily work out, but if you're tenacious and you keep being innovative and having these ideas as an entrepreneur generally does, is that you will find something successful, but you have to keep motivating yourself to to keep picking yourself up when you have those bumps in the road, and you will find success.
Yeah, it's lonely. It's a tough world out there. Surround yourself with the right people, as we know, the big analogy around that. Mix with the right people. Get rid of the toxic people around you. And the greatest entrepreneurs in the world, that's what they spend their life. And sometimes we all know is that the most toxic people around you are the people who don't want you to succeed. And what's quite interesting, and that research has come out, the people that generally don't want you to succeed are distant families. Now think about that. That's kind of a tough statement for me to make, but it's often that case. But the point is that we've got to surround ourselves with like-minded, positive people who want us to succeed, and that reciprocation is there. So that's a critical part of the success curve, and thank you for that. Graeme, on a closing note, final reflections?
I would say, to quote a Bruce Fordyce quote when he talks about the comrades, he says, "Start it like a coward and finish it like a hero." So really, when you start your business, be intentional about what you're building, get the foundations right. When it comes to financing, getting the right people into the business when the time is right to allow you to scale, and really. Yes, you're going to have bumps in the road, but just keep that goal in mind, keep that finish line in mind, whatever that might be for the business. And you finish strong, you finish strong, you finish motivated, and you've built this business, or you've built this, you've had this goal for however many years. Comrades for me was a goal as a child, watching it on TV, and I thought, I want to do this one day, and then. It took 5 or 6 years of building up from 5K races, 10K races, but I still had that goal in mind. I knew what I wanted to do one day. I wanted to do comrades. And then I did it. And then I was like, okay, I want to do another one. I want to do another one. I want to do another one. And then, that's kind of when the bug bites. But I guess the same with, there is a bit of a dopamine hit as well with being an entrepreneur and having those successes as well. And it kind of ties back to endurance sport as well, because you get those endorphins going, and it can be it can be the same with business as well, because you land those, you get your first client, and that's a big endorphin. You've got your client, and then you get the next client, you keep building it. So it's a very exciting, it's a bit of a journey, just like it is building up to comrades, but it's worth it.
We could talk all day, Graeme. And just a point on that. People often ask me, Mike, where do I start to becoming successful? How do I start? And it's quite easy again, after a lot of years of understanding this. Gratitude is everything. And everyone, this is all a choice. If you're grateful about everything in life, the biggest springboard to happiness is gratitude. And the biggest springboard to success is happiness. And that is a choice. There is no natural talent to become a successful entrepreneur. It's simply a choice. Make the choice and make it happen and keep moving, and then you'll become where you want to be. But 2 closing points from my side. Thank you for that, Graeme. 2 closing points from my side, and actual 3 closing points. For anyone out there who hasn't registered for the business show, it's in for a world record. It's unbelievable 2-day forum. This is an accelerator of incredible success. You've got to get to the Business Show Africa in the first week of September. If you're not there yet, the bizshow.africa, the bizshow.africa, or just Google the Business Show Africa. Get your free ticket, and come and see 7C at the show, and come and meet Graeme and his team. Maybe we can see how many more races Graeme has run from now until September. But please join us for that. And another big announcement, you'll see it coming out in the media very, very soon. Thank you, Alicia and Leanne, for that. There is the web address for the Business Show Africa. Please join us. People often say to me, Graeme, what you get to know at the Business Show in 2 days, you can never gain in 10 years. So if you're an entrepreneur and you want to accelerate to where you want to be at the Business Show. And another big thing coming up now in the next few weeks, the big announcement, the biggest, someone said earlier on, funding. I heard a few times on this webinar. Well, I'll tell you one thing, if one wants to put that online there, access to finance.co.za, the most revolutionized access to finance portal powered by the NSPC and leading global brands. We will be launching access to finance online coming up very shortly, where you can apply for funding and get funding routed to the right channel within a matter of minutes. Go on and register there now, and you'll be the first to be notified on launch date. It's a breakthrough in getting funding. The number one challenge for an SME is access to finance. But you know what, Graeme, you will know this. There's no shortage of funding. There's about 350 billion rand in funding available. But the problem is SMEs aren't funding ready. So our journey on this big drive is to get SMEs to be funding ready and show them where they need to go to access funding fast. So please register on that side. It's going to be unbelievable. And of course, for you to get funding. So those are two closing notes. Again, I want to say to Graeme Miller, the Managing Director of 7C, I was truly inspired, Graeme, by your insights and very big well done on what you do. And I have to say again, on behalf of SME South Africa, we truly thank you for coming behind this all-important sector and helping us build SME South Africa. And I can't wait to do this again, Graeme. Maybe you touched on AI a bit there. Maybe we can jump onto that some other time. But I look forward. If I don't see you again before the business show, I will see you at the business show. So definitely. To our attendees out there, it's because of you we can do what we do. We're grateful for your attendance, and it's because of organizations and special people like Graeme and 7C we can do what we do. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day further, and see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
For more business boosting content, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and like our posts.